Hi everyone, you're very welcome to episode 2 of Advocacy Works podcast. I'm Siobhan Flynn and I'm here again today with my co-hosts, Philip. You want to say hello, Philip?
Hello.
And Claire.
Hello.
So you're all very welcome to our second episode, and we're going to talk a little bit about advocacy within our service, the Brothers of Charity Services Ireland. We're in the southeast region, is that correct?
That's right.
Yeah. And we're just going to talk a little bit about how we support advocacy within our region. So we have lots of different things that we do within our service when it comes to advocacy, but I suppose we have structures in place that help us to support how advocacy works in our service, doesn't it?
It does.
What kind of things do we have? Do we have groups that we take? Yeah. So we've local groups, don't we?
Local groups and regional groups.
And regional groups, and we have a national group. Yeah. So in the southeast, so we have a number of local groups, don't we? There's lots of them. And where would they usually have their meetings take place?
Wherever they're working.
Yeah, so they'd be normally in their day service, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And what kind of things do local groups talk about or discuss when they meet up?
One of the things was discussed at one was the government's green paper on disability reform, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. That's only a very recent thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
The government's green paper, yeah. So we would have gotten information on that, and you would have discussed that at your local groups.
Yeah.
And how often would the local groups meet, Claire?
Maybe once or twice a week.
Once or twice a week. Sometimes they would, but
yeah.
Or sometimes groups might leave it for a couple of weeks. They might every fortnight, or the minimum, I suppose, people is once a month. And do you think it's important that local groups meet up?
It is, yeah.
So Philip has said that you would have spoken about the green paper very recently. Any other things that you would talk about, Claire?
The UN. Yeah.
The UNCRPD, the convention,
convention.
So that's something that's really important, and that is something that we're going to talk about in a later episode. It's really important. That's about people's rights and the rights of people with intellectual disabilities. Well, to people with disabilities, not just intellectual disabilities, but that's actually something we're going to focus on in a later episode. So if issues come up at local level, how would you not solve them, but how would you deal with the situations if an issue came up?
Normally we trained do at group level first, and if they can't at local level, then it comes to the regional council. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. So we'll think of a local issue then that would maybe have come up a long time ago, Claire. Groups would have, the discussion really would, and I know this is something that you have said previously about having a key for your front door.
Yeah, I didn't have it when I was growing up at all. I had to wait around for someone to actually come along and actually open the door. That's only in the last 20 years. Yeah,
so initially when advocacy would have started in our service, these were kind of the issues that were being brought up. People didn't have the key for the front door.
I didn't have any at all.
Yeah, so and through advocacy that issue was solved, really, wasn't it? Because it was important that those issues could be solved. What other things would people talk about at their local groups, Philip?
Anything really. Could be anything like you, or it could be anything.
Yeah, so it doesn't necessarily have to be all things that are going wrong. So it doesn't.
No.
It's about sharing information as well. So as you said, things that recently we were asked to give feedback on the green paper on the disability reform. So you would have done that at a local group, and then we would have done it regionally. So and nationally as well. So most recently we also had a referendum.
We did.
And the information was sent out, wasn't it? And it would have been, people would have spoken about it at local level. So I'm just looking at the local group then. Who would normally run that meeting then?
The local group, whoever the chairperson of that group would chair it.
Absolutely, so the chair. And how is the chairperson, who decides who the chairperson is?
The group would in their service.
Yeah, in the group themselves. So you would usually vote on it, wouldn't you? So you decide, somebody would decide, I'd like to be the chairperson, and somebody else might decide, well, I'd like to be the chairperson. So there would be a local election as such.
It would be, yeah.
Just like the government.
Yeah.
So we'd have our local elections, and you'd have, you'd vote who's going to be the chairperson. And what's the role of a chairperson in a local group then, Philip?
The role of the chairperson is to facilitate the meeting of the service group.
Yeah, so it's you're just facilitating it anyway. So it's the same as any chairperson of any meeting, really, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
And Claire, you've been chairperson of your local group.
I was,
previously. You're not at the moment because you're moving on to bigger things, which is great. But so you would have facilitated your group.
Did you?
Was it easy to do? Do you think?
No.
Why was it hard? You found it difficult?
Because some people you'd be talking, then some people would butt in, but you have to be nice and just tell them to calm down or to give other people a chance to actually talk.
So that's a really important. That's the really important role, isn't it? As the chairperson, it's making sure that everybody is listened to, isn't it?
That's the thing, yeah.
You know, and people can get excited about things, and they can start talking about different things, and you know, we all can do that. I know I can do that a lot, can't I?
Yeah.
Yes. So, that's an important role, isn't it? Being the chairperson. And do you think so? Would normally, if you had your local groups, would you hold a meeting yourselves, or would you need support?
No, they usually support with us.
And so the person that would be supposed, that's a staff member usually, isn't it? So that there would be a staff that would support you to do that. And what kind of things would they support you with for the meeting?
To go through the agenda and to maybe write minutes. Yeah,
be important. So 'cause it's difficult to chair a meeting and write minutes at the same time, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that would be important, that you'd have somebody there who could do the minutes, and that's somebody, and it could be another member of the group if they like to write or
it doesn't
they're good
have
at
to be
typing.
the staff that you work with. It can be from a different area as well.
Yeah, you could have that. More in our local groups would usually have a staff that would support you within that day's service, wouldn't it? And so say if you weren't around, say you were off recording a podcast and there was an advocacy meeting where your day service is, would it be that it wouldn't happen, or is there somebody else that could do it?
There'd be a vice chairperson. A vice
chairperson. So that they would, and most groups would vote in their vice chair, wouldn't they?
They would.
Yeah.
So then that would be a case that it would be important that you would have a vice chairperson if, for talk's sake, you were supposed to have your meeting this afternoon or today at some time, but you couldn't because you were doing something else. You were recording the podcast or. And that would be important. That would be that would continue to happen even if you weren't available. Are you clear?
True.
Isn't that true? Yeah. It's important that things would continue. Do you think it's important that people would, plan their meetings for the year?
It is important for people to plan their meetings.
Why would you think it's important, Philip?
Sometimes every might be available. On a day when it's supposed to be on, and people may be here and people may be home early. And
do you think, so say if the beginning of the year or the end of each year you were going to sit down and plan for the following year, do you think that it would be important that at least if you had the dates set out, is it easier to cancel something if it's not really written down, as opposed to, sure, we'll do that tomorrow or we'll do that next week because Philip is not around? But if you have your dates set out in December for the following year, do you think does it help you?
It does.
Yeah, it's easier to plan, isn't it?
It is.
And even if somebody is not available, then the vice chair might be able to do it instead.
Yeah.
Okay. So within our service, we obviously support advocacy quite strongly. We have lots of different local groups throughout our region. As we previously said, we cover 4 different counties in the southeast. So that's Waterford. Where else, Claire?
Tip.
So Tipperary, yeah. Where else? Wexford and
Clonmel.
Yeah, so that come under South Tipperary. Kilkenny, yes. So we're quite a big region. So I think it's important that, and we have so many different groups, but I suppose and they're all working away, and they're, you know, if there's issues arising, they would go and talk to their team leaders and their managers. But also, as part of your role as chairperson of your local group, there's an opportunity, that is part of the role within our service, within our structures, that you would also have, as part of that, you would also sit on another council.
Regional.
Yeah, so your regional advocacy council, is it?
Yep.
So, so that's what we have once a month. We have a regional advocacy council in our southeast region. We meet once a month.
We do.
And where would we normally have our meetings?
Somewhere face to face or on Zoom or away.
Yeah. So we'd either we rotate them, don't we?
We do.
So we'd have one maybe in Waterford, one in South Tipperary, one in Kilkenny, or you know each month then. So we might have one in Waterford this month, and then we'd have one in South Tipperary. Well, we do it on Zoom, and then we do it. The next one then might be South Tipperary, and then the next one would be Zoom. So we alternated, and I suppose before COVID arrived, did we ever do it online?
No,
we didn't. So we didn't.
No.
And then COVID arrived, and we had to try and think very quickly, didn't we?
Yeah. We did.
How can we make sure that advocacy groups are still going to happen, but we can't see face to face? We can't meet face to face. We couldn't meet in person.
No.
So we all moved on to online, didn't we? Yeah. So, and did you find that difficult?
I did.
You did at the start, did you?
Yeah, it was.
What was difficult about that, Philip?
Because I never used the computer, and at the camera when you're talking to people, and
yeah, that's the bit. It can be, but it can be difficult. And Claire, you were very much involved with that during COVID.
Was, yeah.
You adapted very quickly because you did quite a lot of work with our National Council. So we'll talk about the National Council in a minute. But I suppose that the reason I'm bringing it up is that since COVID, we have continued to use the online element of it, haven't we?
We have.
So if, for talk's sake, if there's a meeting happening in one area, in say Waterford, for example, but we can't travel because there's some, the bus is not available that day or whatever, then people can still join online, so they can still be part of the meeting. So that has something that has happened since COVID that we've continued. Yeah. So it kind of gives people the opportunity to, although I might be able to be physically able to go to a meeting in person, but I can still join online. So I think we'll take that as a good thing from COVID, will we?
Yeah.
So they're chairperson then of our local groups, that as part of the role, as part of putting your hand up and saying I'd like to be a chairperson, I'd like to be voted in, you would sit on the regional council.
Yes.
And that's for all our chairpersons, isn't it?
Yeah. It is.
So we, as I said, we meet once a month, don't we?
We do.
And so everybody from all the chairpersons and vice chairpersons, and then some people might come for a day just to see what the meeting is like, just to get a sense of, well, what is it really like? Because they might hear what the regional council is, they might never have been to a regional council, and they might wonder, I really don't know what that's all about. I wonder, could I just go sit in on a meeting? So that's something that people can do, can't they? They can come and just get a sense of what's happening at our regional council. So, and what kind of things do we talk about at the regional council?
It could be anything.
It could be anything, couldn't it? Yeah? And it's very similar to the things that would be spoken at local groups, really, wouldn't it?
It would.
Like the UN Convention, the Assisted Decision Making Act, anything that the government have, the green papers, giving feedback to the HSE on new directions. I suppose, and then there's also issues within the service that maybe couldn't be solved locally that are then brought to our regional council, and there's lots of people there who have lots of opinions. Yeah, and that's what it's all about, really, to get everybody's opinion on things. Have you wanted to say about the regional council, Claire?
Sometimes it's good and sometimes it's not.
Sometimes it's good and sometimes it's not good.
It all depends on what you're talking about.
Oh, okay. So why is that, Claire? The good things about it are
you get to meet other people.
Yeah, it's important, isn't it? Yeah, so you get to meet other people. That you don't feel like you're on your own.
No,
you don't. Because you get that's good. What are the good things about the regional council? You don't know.
No, I don't know.
So would you think it helps with your confidence?
It does. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So you were I know Philip is our current chairperson. You share the chair, and we share that role within the South East. So we have a chairperson from Waterford and we have a chairperson from South Tipperary. So you're the current chair for Waterford, and Claire, you are our past chair for Waterford.
Yeah.
What did you learn about yourself as being part of that role?
Give me more confidence to speak to other people instead of speaking to you.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Yeah, so you don't really need to talk to me anymore to tell people. You're well able to do that yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's important, isn't it?
Yes.
Philip is only a newbie, kind of. Well, you're not. You're still learning the role, but you're doing very well. Are you enjoying it?
I am, yeah.
What is it that makes you? What about being the chairperson? Can you say is a good thing about it?
Getting to meet the other chairs from like Brexit to Kenny and St. Tipperary, and getting to meet them every month.
Yeah, well, that's good. So you're developing relationships with other people, meeting people that you may never have met.
No.
Which is really good. Do you think it's difficult to be a chairperson?
It is.
Why is it difficult?
Because you may have a group meeting one day, then you run off to do a regional one another day, then you're off to the national one another day, and you're constantly...
You're a busy man. Claire, you're busy as well.
You're constantly really here then.
You're going everywhere. And that's what's good then. What's important then when you're a chairperson? That you need what?
Diaries.
A good diary. Isn't that right? And you write down all your dates. And that so that you can, so that at least everybody would know, and to tell people who support you then, like, these are the meetings I have, and so that's important, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I know, going back to what we were talking about earlier on about people, planning your month, your dates for the year. We do that for our regional council, don't we?
We do, yeah.
So at the beginning of each year, we have set our dates. It's sent out to everybody.
Yep.
Everybody knows when the regional council is on.
Yeah, they do.
So then, and so that helps with planning, doesn't it? It helps that, okay, we know this meeting is on this date. Okay, there's other things that might be happening, but we have, and as part of the role, as being part of the chairperson, you have to make decisions, don't you, as to whether you'd like to continue, you need to go be part of the regional council. So it's only once a month.
It is.
So there's lots of things that would come up there, I suppose, and I suppose giving an example of it really would be, I think, one of the first people I met in our service was a man from our service when I took on the role as advocacy officer, and his first thing was to me, he said, well, Siobhan, we should be interviewing staff. Why aren't we interviewing staff? And I didn't know at the time why that was the case. And that was something that he had spoken about, and it was something that came up through advocacy for a long time, locally. What it did, didn't it? That was something that couldn't really be solved at a local level. It had to be brought to our regional council, didn't it? And the regional council for a long time would have said that people should be involved in interviewing. And is that the case now?
No.
People are not are people involved in interviewing people and staff now? They are now, yeah. So
they weren't before.
They weren't before. That's true. And you would have done some training a long time ago on that, Philip, didn't you?
I did.
You went to the UK, I think, did you?
We did, yeah. Myself,
and
Mary Cathy, and
a couple of other people. So there was some. You were supported to go to the UK to do some training on that, weren't you?
Yeah.
But so then, which is great.
Yeah.
And that kind of started the ball rolling, didn't it?
It did.
So we have now people, and the two people sitting here today are both interviewers of new staff, which is great, isn't it? Do you think that's important?
It is.
Why do you think it's important that you should be part of the panels?
Because we get to choose who would join the service and who doesn't.
Yeah, well, that's true, and that's all about interviewing people, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's a difficult thing to do, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not an easy thing to do, and you would have had to do training to do it.
Yes, because it's all about confidentiality as well.
Yeah, it's huge, isn't it? Yeah, so I suppose, and that's really just to look at how advocacy, which can be brought up at a local level within our service, who then can go to the regional council, and the regional council then bring it forward to senior management. So we would have been brought to senior management. So once we have our regional council meetings every month, then we meet. Who do we meet direct? Less than an hour later.
Really,
the
services.
The director of the services and the regional
officer.
The regional managers as well, don't we?
Yeah.
So there's a direct link there as well. So if something comes up at the regional council, within the next hour, we've spoken to the director.
Yep.
And we've spoken to our regional managers.
Yep.
And we've spoken to them about
what was said at the what was discussed at a week's a day's meeting, and then.
Yeah. So that's really good, isn't it? It's a direct link to our managers.
Before there wasn't. Before there wasn't,
and no, it doesn't happen in every organisation.
No,
you know that.
Before we didn't. Before us in Clare.
Yes.
We weren't ever.
You're talking about the interviewing again?
No.
Yeah.
Before we became chair, we never talked to the managers.
No, well, they wouldn't have had kind of you would have met them, and you might have just passing and stuff like that, or you might have seen them. You would have had a chat and that. But it wasn't. It wasn't that once your regional council meeting finished, you got to talk to the director and the regional manager, which is I think it's a great thing. It's a great opportunity, isn't it, for you to kind of have your voices heard directly after hearing people's voices, and you're representing them.
But before that didn't.
No, you didn't have that opportunity when you're in that. Yeah, so it's great. That's how we support it as well in our service, and I suppose we're looking at how important it is to support the structures of advocacy, and if there's issues coming up, how that the people that can help make decisions or can make things happen or make changes are told directly then. Isn't that right?
Yeah.
So there are kind of the structures we have within our region, and you both will be involved in this, and I know you're currently involved, and Claire, you would have been involved within the Brothers of Charity Services nationally. We also have what do we call our national group?
National leadership team, is it?
Yeah, but that would be the national leadership team. That would be the managers and the senior managers and the
national advocacy group.
The National Advocacy Council. Yeah, so each of our regions. So as we said previously, the Brothers of Charity is made up of 6 different regions, for 6 different counties, and we would meet. Then representatives from our regional council would sit on our national council. Yeah, so Claire, you were previously part of the National Advocacy Council.
I was, yeah.
And what was your role there?
I was chairperson.
You were the national chair at one stage, weren't you?
Yeah.
And what kind of how did you find that?
It was hard to do.
Yeah, it's a difficult thing to do, isn't it? Yeah. So it's a big step up from the regional to the national. Yeah. Because the national group is made up of representatives from not just the southeast, so it's not.
No.
So it's all the different regions. So you would have had, what is it being part of the National Council has helped you, Claire?
To get more confidence, to actually be part of that.
You enjoyed being part of that, didn't you? Yeah. Did you make friends?
Yes.
So you still have connections there for people of other counties, and you're quite new to the National Council, Philip.
I am, yeah.
But you've done a few meetings now, so you're not new, but you're new enough, I suppose.
Yeah.
And how do you find being the National Council?
I'm enjoying it.
You're enjoying it, yeah. You're only getting to know people, aren't you?
Yeah.
So it's kind of but it's the same idea really from the National Council that you would, you get the opportunity to talk to other people from other regions within the Brothers of Charity. You get to talk about things that would come up in regionally and like the impact. Usually, what happens, I think, when it comes to services or issues and things like that, it impacts other people. They just happen to be in a different part of the country, don't they?
Yeah.
You know, so like COVID was a really, you know, there was lots of discussion on that, and
wearing masks.
And the temperature thing and COVID. So that impact was happening to all our regions. Do you know what I mean? So the National Council meet, it's 5 times a year, isn't it?
It is.
We meet 5 times a year, and then and you're supported then from each region is supported. So I was a supporter from the southeast, and then we've other supporters from other regions, and we would support you around lots of different things. Obviously to go to your meeting, to chair the meeting, to get the agenda ready, and I suppose to be as quiet as we possibly can.
Yeah.
Does that work?
No.
Sometimes it's hard.
Some people just talk too much.
Some people talk too much. They do, Philip.
Really no names?
Mentioning no names. No, thank you, Philip. But it can be difficult sometimes.
Yeah.
Yes, I know. But I suppose it's important that we have this within our service. That it's important that the voices of all our regions are heard, isn't it?
Yeah.
That people, so if you're in the southeast and you're thinking, oh, this is only impacting me. Well, actually, it's not.
No.
Do you know what I mean? So, and the National Advocacy Council was developed over 25 years ago.
Jesus.
So it's gone a long time. Do you know? And we've developed throughout the years. We've we have lots of structures in place as well to make sure that everybody, there's some structures that you have to make sure that everybody's voice is heard, isn't it? So then at the National Council we meet all the other regions, we discuss different things that are happening. Part of that is we have a smaller group, part of the National Council, which is our policy group. Isn't it? So I know Claire, you're part of that as well. We have a policy group that looks at our policies and making them accessible for people. So that's kind of an extra group as part of the National Council, and we give feedback to the HSE. We meet with the reps have met with the HSE. We've met with HICWA. We've done training on the assisted decision making. We've done lots of different things, haven't we?
You have.
So it's a real learning curve, I think, as part of the National Council. But twice a year the National Council meet up with who then?
The National Leadership Team.
You mentioned it earlier on. So who are our National Leadership Team? Now, we don't need the names of people, but who are they? What's it made up of?
Different regions.
The regions.
Yeah.
Of...
So it's the directors from different regions. Then we would have our national
team,
the National Leadership Team, and they would be for our head of HR, our head of finance, our national director, all the different senior managers within our service, and we would meet them twice a year as a National Advocacy Council. Yeah. And like that, no different to the structures we have in the southeast, where the regional council will meet directly with the director and the regional manager there. We also do that at a national level. Yeah. And we are involved in other outside groups, and that all kind of not only happens regionally but nationally. Claire, you're involved with Inclusion Ireland at the moment.
I am, yeah.
There's other groups we've been involved with, commission and things like that. So that all comes from advocacy and the structure. And it's more the support that we give to advocacy within our service.
It is.
Do you think there's anything else that we could talk about that you think people would like to know about how advocacy is supported in our service? Or do you think...
No.
Have we given a good sense of it today?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah. That's great. Thanks for that.
No problems.
Thank you.
And we're going to end today's episode then. We'll just say a goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me.
Thank you.
Thank you.